Today we'll be showing you how to change the chain and sprockets on a VLX 600. First, we remove the chain guard. We've also removed the cover over the front sprocket prior to filming. Next, we'll remove the clip from the master link. Yours may have a pressed-on type, which would require a removal tool. You'll notice there are O-rings between that outer plate and the rest of the chain. You want to make sure when you're putting the new master link in that you don't forget to put the O-rings on the master link. Once the master link is removed, you're able to now pull the chain out, and you'll be able to work on the sprockets next. I started with the front sprocket since I didn't have to remove any wheels to get to that sprocket. Simply a matter of removing the bolts, taking the retaining collar off, popping the old one off, and putting the new one back in its place. Before I put the new sprocket on, I also took a wire brush to that spline shaft there to remove some of the rust. When you put the bracket back on that holds that sprocket in place, you'll find that the bolt holes may or may not line up when you first go to stick it on there, but there's a little channel cut into that spline shaft that allows that bracket to spin around, and you can line the bolt holes up and you can replace the bolts. While the tire's still on the ground, we will go ahead and loosen the 5 nuts that hold the sprocket in place and the axle nut on the rear wheel. Now with the shaft removed, we're able to remove the nuts from the sprocket, and once those are off, the old sprocket just comes right off, slides out, and then we'll be ready to put the new sprocket in its place. New sprocket just goes on the 5 studs there, and I put the nuts back in place. Once those are tightened down, we're able to put the shaft back in. That should be greased liberally. And then of course we put the nut back on. We'll tighten that down as well. You may or may not have to adjust your brake depending on what changes you've made, how stretched the old chain was, any number of factors. In my case, with the 5.5-inch forward controls, the new chain, new sprockets, I had to adjust my rear brake so it wasn't engaged all the time. Once everything's back in place, the chain you can thread that back onto the sprockets. And for ease of getting the master link back on there, we'll just get the chain ends to match up there at the back end of the sprocket. This particular chain that I bought for my bike came with the master link that doesn't use the clip, and I don't have the tool for that particular master link, so I reused the old master link, which was actually in good shape still. Once that's all sandwiched together, you can go ahead and put the retaining clip in place. Just slides over the master link ends there. You want to make sure that clip is all the way in and up against that stud there on the master link. And make sure that your retaining clip is facing the right direction for the travel of the chain. You want to make sure that the open end of the retaining clip is pointed to the back of the bike when the chain is rotated up over the sprocket. Once that's all back together, you can put the chain guard back in place, the cover back on over the front sprocket. There's a couple of tabs on this particular bike that they just kind of pop into place, and then there's one bolt down below that secures it. The bolt on mine is stripped out, so I actually ended up using the wrong tool to get this on and off, but it worked. So there you have it, a chain and 2 new sprockets on the VLX 600.